Creative Magic Club. What's up? This is Sarah Mack and welcome to Creative Magic Club. Together, we'll discover inspirational stories of creative entrepreneurs living out their dreams, doing the work they are most passionate about, and building wealth in magical and fun ways. While building a six-figure income as a writer and coach, helping other women to launch their dream businesses, I've connected with so many incredible people and seen it proven again and again that you can thrive financially doing whatever it is you are passionate about. I'm here to share life-changing strategies for mindset, making money, and reaching more people with your work in a business and life filled with creativity, freedom, and fun. Hi, welcome. I'm so excited to introduce my guest for today. It's Vangile Makwakwa, who is the founder of Wealthy Money, which is a company that helps women heal ancestral money trauma so they can fall in love with their bank accounts and live their best lives. She's also the host of the Property Magicians podcast, which is an A to C guide to property investing to support you to start to grow your own property portfolio. And she's also an author of book Heart, Mind, and Money, Using Emotional Intelligence for Financial Success. She has a finance degree and an MBA and started her personal finance journey by paying off 60 grand in debt. And she's been traveling for 15 years and she's building her company, wealthymoney.com, as she travels and lives in different countries. So welcome, Vangile. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
So I'm really excited for this conversation because money mindset is one of my favorite topics, and particularly the way that you are talking about it, which is doing the emotional healing work, healing those ancestral patterns that we inherit. This was completely like life-changing and mind-blowing for me when I started doing this work, and like it works. Like it seems like a very like illogical way to heal your money problem. I can testify that it works. So I would love for you to kick us off by just telling us a little bit about your story and like what was one of those big moments of transition for you where you stepped into doing this work that you're doing today?
Wow, like I feel like it didn't just happen that I started working on ancestral trauma. I think I started with everyone else. I started off by looking at the positive thinking and mindset work and doing affirmations, nothing wrong with that, right? But then I noticed that I wasn't getting the shifts that everybody else was talking about. Like I wasn't waking up and feeling better about money. And actually in the midst of that, I started getting panic attacks around withdrawing money and handling money. So here I was doing my best to positive think, doing everything that everybody had taught me to do. And yet I was like having panic attacks. And eventually the panic attacks got so bad, I fell into deep depression. You know, I thought everybody's like, ignore it, just keep pushing through the fear, keep affirming, keep thinking, keep visualizing, be positive. And I kept doing that. And then I got extremely depressed. And then I was like, what is going on? And then I went through this whole thing that I think most people can understand, which is there's something wrong with me. My issue is so deep, nothing can heal it. I'm like that small percentage in the human population where like the work doesn't work for me in any way. And during my depression, I then discovered a friend of mine came and told me about Vipassana and said, maybe if you go and you start meditating and you don't make it so much about the money and the obsession to get out of debt, but you actually go on a healing journey, like really commit to healing. And at the time I was like, wow, yeah, because I don't want to live anymore. So I felt like, okay, money is like the least of my issues on this journey. It's like, let me get to the point where I actually want to get out of bed and I want to live and I feel calm doing like everyday things, going to an ATM. So I went to Vipassana, didn't expect much, honestly, and walked out of there 10 days later with just insane clarity I've never gotten, I mean, this is not the norm, right? But my story is that I got out of there and was never depressed. Like, I don't struggle with depression. I never went through a period ever, like for the last 10 years now, where I even have a thought like, I want to end my life. Those thoughts are just no longer part of my psyche, whereas they would be part of my everyday, like maybe I would say in a day, like maybe 10 times a day, I'm thinking about how I don't want to live. I need this to end. I want to end my life. Now, like literally, years go by without me ever thinking even a thought like that, which was, for me, that was the beginning of like, this is miraculous stuff. Something just happened. And I saw, though, when I was in Vipassana, that there was a link between my emotions, my mindset, and my body, that my body was caring so much. And so I started going on this journey to say, what just happened? And how do I then use this that just happened to money? And then a friend of mine said to me, have you ever considered that the depression that you had was not just your depression, but also ancestral depression, that you're carrying so much ancestral trauma, and within the family, someone in each generation is trying to process it, and it gets overwhelming, right? And it will eventually become depression. And I was like, okay. And that's how this whole journey really went deeper onto ancestral trauma and linking that to money, because I started doing the work. I went on a journey. I should also preface this by saying that I do come from a family of Sangomas in South Africa, which is, I guess, what you guys would call shamans in the West. So it wasn't like, oh, I was starting from scratch, right? I just decided to go back to what I knew at home. And then I started researching Eastern philosophies, started doing more yoga, started working more in depth around meditation, and then started creating, with all my experiences, a new body of work around ancestral trauma, just around money. So that's how I came to do this work. And years later, it's been helping tons of people, and I'm very, very grateful.
What an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's funny, there's a lot of parallels in my own story. I ended up going to Vipassana, and it was actually,
Wow.
my journey to wanting to have more money, or like wanting to struggle less with money, that really led me onto this journey of the emotional healing work. And beautiful journey, because it's fucking hard work. Like, let's be honest, like a lot of it isn't fun at all. And the same thing happened to me. Like, once I started to release, like I got a lot of flooded with feelings of really challenging feelings of depression and anxiety. And it's just been, learning emotional release techniques and like sitting through it, release that pain from my body. But the amazing thing is like, every time you do that, every time you give yourself that time and you invest in that work, it's almost like, I see it as like, you clear out whatever's clogging the drain, and then like stuff, like good stuff always comes through on the other side. Like the money just comes in, you expand to another level of ease and joy and fulfillment. And it's like, like just like dumping another rock out of your backpack. So I just think this is such, an incredible...
I didn't know that about you and Vipassana.
Yeah, I actually did it when I was in India. When I was traveling, I had my big, like, it was like an eat, pray, love thing. I picked up Eat, Pray, Love when I was in Bali, and I was like, wait, this is happening to me. What's going on? Like, I'd already...
No way.
Yeah, I didn't even want to go there.
Did the whole romance thing happen to you?
No, not quite in the same way. That was actually the year I didn't see my partner for almost 11 months, because we were just on opposite sides of the world. But I ended up in India just because I was like broke, burnt out, really ill. Like the job I went to Bali for fell apart, and I was like, I just need to buy some time to get better. So I was just learning like yoga, meditation. I did Vipassana. A lot of release like came from that. So it's kind of funny how like yoga, meditation, emotional healing work, like, that's the work if you want more money.
That is the work. That really is the work, ironically, right? So just out of interest, because I'm always fascinated to hear people's journeys around this, affirmations and like constantly like going, oh no, I can't think negatively. I can't feel this way. I must feel grateful. Did that trigger the feelings of, oh no, something's not happening. Something's not working for me?
Yeah, totally. And you know what? The way that I see it is when you do the mindset work, when you set the affirmations and you decide and you're like, this is what I'm stepping into. This is the amount of money. This is how I want to feel. These are the results. This is the life that I want to create. I feel like it's like plugging into your GPS system and your mind is like, okay, this is where we're going now. This is where we're going. And then like everything that's in the way, that just like comes to the surface. And so if you don't have a toolkit of like being able to be like, oh, this stuff's coming up for me now, I get to process it and release it, then it can be confusing. It's like, oh, well, this stuff's coming up for me and I'm screwed and I don't know what to do. And this is really hard. But so it took me a while to just learn that process of when stuff is coming up, just move through it. Like, don't get attached to it. Don't make a story around it. You know, ask for help. Get the support to be able to, build the tools to be able to process that. Because once you go through that pattern and you kind of teach that process to yourself, you see that even though it feels like you're having a massive breakdown and like everything is failing, it's actually you're just moving through it. And like, if you allow yourself to move through it, you can move through it pretty quickly, and then things get way better on the other side.
This is so, so true.
So I think that's a really important message for people to hear. And another thing that I think about depression is it's like, you know, sometimes it makes you shut down everything else in your life and just like shut yourself in by yourself and stare at the wall, because sometimes that's literally all you can do. And it's like, because you're like, stop distracting, stop pushing in the wrong direction, just be with yourself, listen and allow whatever needs to come up, which obviously because it can be really uncomfortable and really painful. And like you said, it isn't ours. It's just ancestral. We've inherited patterns from our family that is really painful to process. But when you move through it, then you can move past it and things get so much better on the other side.
Yeah, like one of the things that I think I learned on this journey was that every emotion just wants to be felt. Every sensation in the body wants to be acknowledged, and every thought wants to be interacted with, like especially the painful thoughts about ourselves. Like, if instead of like erasing them, we allow ourselves to engage with them and to start questioning them, digging deeper into them, sitting with them, feeling into them, they lose their grip on us and their power on us. But what's been happening for most of us is we've been taught that the only way to succeed and the only way to break through is to never even have those thoughts, you know, and to even have that thought, you must quickly just erase it. And I'm just thinking one of my key thoughts that would keep me like from really moving forward, and especially around money, was I am not good enough, right? And I would always try to override that thought with, I am enough, I am good enough, until I started exploring the thought of, let me sit with this. How does this feel in my body? Let me go deeper into it. Like, is this my thought only? Is it just from this lifetime? Or am I also thinking thoughts that have been passed on to me from generation to generation? Where could this have originated from? And then allowing myself to do the ancestral healing around that thought, which on the surface is just a really uncomfortable thought. But when we dig deeper, it has so many layers to it, you know. And I found that actually the most persistent thoughts are the ones that we may want to explore, because they are layered and they are so persistent, because they don't just come from us. They've been passed down from generation to generation. And now in our nervous system and as part of our DNA, they feel like a deep and core truth. And they're not, obviously.
Yeah, this is such a powerful conversation. And I think what you touched on in your story is the reason why so many of us get stuck, especially women, because it's the shame. It's the shame around like, there must be something wrong with me if I'm not like shiny and perfect all day long. And if I'm feeling these negative emotions, there's just something wrong with me. And yeah, like you say, a lot of people gloss over this conversation of like the other side of our emotional existence, which everybody has, by the way. Like, a lot of people don't talk about it. So it is really disempowering to not talk about it and be like, I'm perfect and happy and shiny all the time, and like, just don't have your back up. Because that stops us from going in there. That makes us afraid of like really going into the difficult emotions. But that's where we create the freedom, as you say, by exploring it, by understanding it, by, you know, being able to be objective about it. And like, this isn't me. This is just an experience that I'm having. Like, where has it come from? And how can I shift that? Like, what is the lesson here? You know, that I can benefit from to adjust the way that I react with myself, take care of myself, you know, think about myself, and, you know, adjust my behavior accordingly. So thank you so much for bringing this conversation to the table. And so what would you say is, like, if you had, you know, one moment on stage, there was one part of your message that you just wish your people could know, that, you know, would just really benefit them and change their lives, like, what is that message on your heart that you're the most passionate about sharing?
My favorite thing, my favorite quote is, it's never about the money, right? It's that we always believe, and I say this all the time, right? It's like, it's never about the money. We always believe that it's about the money because we're looking at our bank accounts tanking. We're looking at our income not being where we want it to be. We're seeing everything fall apart. So logic would say, well, the problem is money, so it's a money problem. But there really isn't actually about the practical things around money. I know this because I have a finance degree and I have an MBA, and I still ended up having panic attacks around money, right? So it's often about something else other than the money. So even as we're looking at our bank accounts, even as we're looking at our debts, even as we're looking at our income, forget for a moment about the money. Feel into your body as you are feeling, as you are observing all these things, as you're budgeting, as you're doing the income, as you're doing everything, and then feel how that feels for you. And I also say that the body never lies. So the body carries a lot of our memories, our thoughts, our emotions. So just by feeling into the body and just giving ourselves time to figure out what is going on within the body, what am I feeling, and sitting and observing what is going on within the body, and asking some key questions of different parts of the body where we're feeling different sensations, we can start to see that actually it's not so much about the fact that I am broke, I don't have money in my bank account that is upsetting me. And it's maybe that I'm not even as upset as I thought I was. It's that I'm ashamed, or that I am so scared that other people are going to find out the truth about my finances. And oh my God, what is that going to do? And then work on figuring out how is that shame driving your financial behavior? How are all these memories from childhood driving your financial behavior? And how does that then have an actual impact on your bank account? And you'll find that as you start to heal the deeper underlying issues, what is happening in your bank account will start to change and shift, even with our debts, even with our income, right? So it is never about the money.
I love it. It's so powerful. Thank you. And I would love to ask you, as somebody who has, you know, successfully gone to 60K in debt to building wealth, what are some of the key takeaways for anyone who's listening, who has been trying to get out of debt for a while and is like, I don't know, I'm stuck, like, help me. What are your words of wisdom?
Okay, so my words of wisdom, you need to not run away from your bank account. So when I was in debt, so in my book, Heart, Mind, and Money, which was published years ago, I talk about how like one of the first things I did was I would look at my bank account every single day, and I would then sit with what was coming up in my body and sit with my breath and observe it, go into my body, and then notice the emotions I was feeling, and then try to notice the immediate thoughts that I was having right after looking at my bank account, right? And I did this every day for like 4 years. Now I'm not as strict, but now I don't have any debt, right? Which is not so great because this is such an incredible exercise, whether or not we're in debt. But my goal was to get out of debt in 5 years for the $60,000. And just so people understand what was going on in my life, I made this weird decision. All my debt was mainly 75% of it was in US dollars. The other was in pounds, and the other was in South African rand or rands. So it was just messy. I was a messy person. But then I decided I'm going to pay off this debt, but I'm going to move back home. I'm going to use South African rand to pay off debt that is in dollars and pounds, which is significantly more when like actually you're earning rands. And just by doing this exercise, I was still able to do it and get out of debt in 4 years, right? So what that does is really like, most of us are constantly running away from interacting with money. So now you're just, and I did this, by the way, all this didn't take me more than 15 minutes a day. I was very strict about that because I was like, I don't want to hate this exercise. And also it was freaking uncomfortable. So I don't want to be in discomfort for too long because I'm going to keep doing it daily. And then it was just by doing that, I was retraining my brain and the amygdala. We do this to retrain the brain to say, this is no longer scary. If you stop reacting to this, in the same way that you've been reacting all these years, because most of the time our reactions around money are learned reactions. They're trained reactions. Our thinking and mindset around money is a learned mindset. It's not like we all just, even our ancestors came here and decided that this is how money worked and this is how they thought about money. These are learned and, hereditary behavioral patterns. So one way to change the behavioral pattern is to get yourself into the situation and then actively every day choose a different reaction. So in this case, it's like you are choosing not to freak out, whether or not there's tons of money in your bank account, whether or not there's zero in your bank account, whether or not you're in overdraft. You are teaching the brain to react calmly towards money. And then and not just that, you're actually then checking in with where is the body, how is your body and your nervous system reacting to this exercise. And some days it's great, you master the calm, and then maybe for months and months on end, you just like go from, oh, I was super calm to it's all gone to pieces, I've regressed, but you sit with it because every new up level brings up something else, brings up some kind of trauma that you're not aware of. So this is just one of the small exercises, but honestly, such a life-changing exercise that I can give to anyone, especially people that are like me and were feeling like super overwhelmed around their debt and you just don't know where to start, right? This is a start. It's a simple start and 15 minutes a day. Trust me, in 30 days or even in 5 days, you will see such a massive, massive shift.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what you said about like, I don't want to hate this exercise. And I think that's so key for a habit change is like bite-sized ways that make it easy for you to show up consistency and keep that consistency. And and it's been the same for me too. And if you think about it, like no wonder, you know, the general population of the world like has a bad relationship with money because we're just freaking out about it most of the time. Like we're so irrational. A lot of the time, you know, patterns of avoidance and, you know, and I talk about this a lot too, is just like getting to a neutral state where you're not having a panic attack when you look at your bank accounts. And the way to do that is just to do it more consistently and be like, okay, just make space for how you're feeling and be kind to yourself in that way, but stop avoiding it. It's such
because
simple message.
What we've been taught is that when you have lots of money, you're happy, right? When there's money in the bank account, you're happy. When there's no money in your bank account, you're unhappy. But then you're essentially being run by money, ruled by money. Your entire emotional state is dependent on money in the bank account. And what happens in situations where certain things cannot be avoided? There's so many. I can't say that I will always have a great relationship with money. I will always have money in my bank account, right? Because like life happens, right? There'll be incidents in life where suddenly you need to use most or all your money to help a family member, to help a child, to do something. So are you going to now lose your balance every time the money leaves? It's just, it doesn't make sense.
And that's true empowerment. Like, yes, having money is empowering. Yes, it's important. Yes, when women have more money, the world is a better place. But when women are happy, when women are empowered, and that's, I teach money mindset as well. And that's, I always see when we come in and we start doing this work on money mindset, on business, on like hitting our income goals, the thing that always comes up first is our personal relationships and the relationship dynamics, because those are the places where we're the most emotionally vulnerable. Those are the places where our deepest patterns are showing up, because, especially our closest relationships, especially with family, because we can't run away from them, right? If you have an uncomfortable relationship with a lover or a friend, you can just quit that relationship. But you can't run away from family, even if you're physically detached from them or away from them. Like we're attached to our family and on so many levels. And so those are like the teaching grounds for, coming up against our biggest challenges, our deepest wounds. That's the work that people don't want to do, but that's the work.
And let's not forget how interconnected money and family are, right? It's like so much goes on around money and family dynamics. And most of our money stories and deep fears around money don't just come from us. They are from our families. And in the same way that we carry ancestral trauma around money, all our other family members are carrying that ancestral trauma. They are part of the same DNA. So this is so key to understand, so, and obviously because they mirror so much of who we are around money, their money behaviors are bound to trigger us. It's basically unavoidable.
Yeah. And there are studies now proving how emotional patterns are carried through the DNA, just like hair color, eye color, skin color, all of those types of things. And what just came to mind as a story in my own life to kind of where I came to that understanding of how deep this runs, because I used to have nightmares of like not having enough food and having this like real fear throughout my body that like there wasn't going to be enough food, there wasn't going to be enough, like literally just scarcity, the embodiment of scarcity, right? And I woke up and I immediately connected it to when my nana, my grandmother, who was from Germany, she was like around during the war, and she always used to tell stories of how like we didn't have enough food during the war and we just had to eat crusts. And so there was this pattern throughout our family of like always clear your plates, and I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people. And this kind of like hoarder energy of like, if I don't save this that I have now, then like I'm going to run out in the future because there's not to buy. And so, I'm sure this is very common for so many of us who have had grandparents who have been times of like very real scarcity that we just is not in our reality, and we don't need these emotional patterns because we have the internet where you can make money in a day without don't spend any money up front. And we really we are shifting into a time of unlimited abundance, where when we zoom out and we let go of those patterns and those limited perspectives and behavior patterns, then, and that was really what happened for me. I doubled my income the last 3 years in a row because I started shifting my stories and releasing all of these patterns. And I was like, actually it is pretty easy for us to make money nowadays, and I am actually capable of that option is available to me. And when I release that emotional resistance, and I get to follow through on that, and I get to create results. So thank you so much for having this conversation with us today. I love it. I'm really excited to share this episode. And please, can you share, for anyone who's been listening, who's really interested in continuing this work with you and finding more about what you do, how do they do that?
Okay, so they can just go to wealthy-money.com. Again, wealthy-money.com. And a great way to get started with my work is to download my breathwork meditation on fear and anxiety, which, as most people know, breathwork works on the nervous system and the emotions as well, right? So you can download that at wealthy-money.com/breathwork, but it's also on the Wealthy Money landing page. So again, wealthy-money.com. You'll get all that there, and you'll get all the links to my courses as well, all the links to my coaching. And when my retreats become available, that again, after COVID, probably 2021, all that is there. So thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Vangile. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
For more inspirational content, head over to my website withsarahmac.com, and please support the show by liking, commenting, and subscribing.